Hello and welcome to the first episode of FPL Variance powered by Fantasypedia. I'm Zeeshan and I'm joined by Anshuman and Manan today. How's it going, guys? How's the FPL season been so far?
I mean, I didn't have Perisic in my game week 3 team. I didn't captain Salah and still ended up with a green arrow. So it's been going decent, as say.
That's great. That's great. What about you, Manan?
The season started really well. I was just under 100k, and then game week three happened. I also didn't have Perisic, but I captained Salah and ended up on 49 points. So quite happy about it.
That's great. Yeah. I think for most of the community, it was a good week to have a bad week. And like Anshuman, a similar story here. Not a great score, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. So plenty in store. And that's what we are planning to discuss today on the very first episode. We have a bunch of topics lined up that we're going to look at. We will cover the key points, including the captaincy dilemmas. We'll also compare the two big heavyweights in terms of forwards, and we'll also talk about Perisic that we've spoken about, as well as a key talking point in the community, that is the Liverpool defense. So yeah, we will start off with the big topic. Like I said, the two heavyweights among forwards, Haaland versus Kane. Uh, what are your thoughts so far, guys? Which camp have you been? I know that some of us in the community started with Kane, and Haaland had a really good start. We'll start with you, Anshuman. What are your thoughts?
So I had Haaland in my game week 1 team. I was very sure that I wanted to keep him throughout, like in the initial phase, and not make the switch in game week 2. And I stuck to that. In fact, Haaland was even my captain in game week 3. So, and he's been doing great. He had 4 big chance involvement in game week 3. He looked good. He was there, and Foden could have passed squared the ball to him, and he would have scored another goal. He had a 1v1 against Pope. So you see the glimpse that he's always there in terms of goal scoring opportunities, but there is an important turn in terms of minutes now. When you look at City's schedule, which it becomes important and essential to talk about Haaland versus Kane, because Pep has mentioned right now, Pep has mentioned this week as well that Haaland, it's not like Haaland will play every match. If there are games every three days, Haaland will be benched. We have Alvarez with us and he'll start. If you look at City's schedule, where I'll discuss this in a bit of a depth as well, because City's schedule is almost 3.1 games from now till game week 8, which is like international break. So, do you want to spend 11.7 million on a forward which you are likely to not captain, which is likely to not get as many minutes as you want, or do you want to make the switch to a player like Kane who's going to guarantee get you 90 minutes throughout?
Yeah, that's a fair point. What about you, Manan? What are your thoughts? Have you got any of these guys in your team already, and are you planning to switch them around?
So I started with three premiums. I started with Haaland and Son. I didn't went for Kane, and then I switched Son to KDB in game week two for his 14-point haul. So quite happy about it. But I've always been in the Haaland camp. I have been following him since his Borussia Dortmund days. He's the I can clearly see he's the most explosive player in the league, and the point Anshuman made that he'll play 2 games out of 3, right? So I don't mind holding him because I know in those 2 games he can absolutely explode, right? So I've always been in the Haaland camp, and I'll likely hold on to him just because I know what he can do in those 2 games, and he'll also come as a substitute in the one he won't start, right? So I think I'm fairly settled on Haaland right now.
Yeah, I mean, interesting thoughts. And as we can look at the data out here, Haaland has had a really strong start. He is accumulating XG for fun. I think that's like 3 XG in 3 games. So he's clearly a very explosive player. And I think the most important point to consider here is that he plays for City. I mean, City are a team that creates the most chances in the league. And I see the upside when it comes to Kane. I think he is a great shout. Uh, I would also say in the next game week, he's a very fine captaincy shout as well. But I don't know if I'm comfortable taking Haaland out for him. Maybe if there's a case, if you're going premium and you can have both, it's fine. But yeah, I think holding Haaland for me would be the wise move. He will, just purely down to the amount of chances that City create. I think Haaland will get consistent returns, and as you mentioned, Manan, that he could also come on if he's on the bench and get some goals here and there, and that's the beauty of 5 subs. So the Pep Rowlett could work in our favor. So yeah, I'm a bit torn, but I am very much keen on Haaland, and I think. Yeah. If I want to bring Kane in, I don't think it's worth sacrificing Haaland right now.
Okay, so Z, basically, first of all, the XG that is accumulated, you need to really factor in that he had a penalty as well in that, and he missed two really good chances as well in that game. Let's just deep dive into what City's schedule looks like. They play Barcelona on the 24th. They play Villa on the 27th. Then Forest on 31st. Then Aston Villa, Crystal Palace on in Game Week 4 they play Crystal Palace. Game Week 5 Nottingham Forest. Game Week 6 they play Villa away. And then in midweek, either on the 6th or 7th, they have the first Champions League game. Then they go to they play against Tottenham at home. Then they have the second game of the Champions League, and then play Wolves. There's about 3 days gap in every between every game. Now, what the situation is basically, do you see him starting all the games? I think the two essential games where I see him starting is one of the Champions League game and the Tottenham game. So, in my opinion, there are two scenarios, depending on how the match day one fixture is. So, if the match day one fixture, which we will eventually find out on Thursday or Friday or when the UCL draws come out, if it's a tough game week, I think he gets rested in the Villa game because you want him to play that first match in the UCL and then against Tottenham as well. So I see him getting rested at Villa and then probably at Wolves as well. Although, if it's probably a tougher game in the second match day, it's very likely that he could be rested against Nottingham Forest, or maybe if it's the tougher game in the first one, he probably gets rested in the Nottingham Forest or Villa game. And if it's the second one, I don't see him starting against Nottingham Forest. Maybe Villa 60 minutes, and then match day one he gets a complete rest. Tottenham he starts, and then you rest him against Wolves again. The entire point is basically, in the next 3 games, do you see him starting regularly? No. If you add up the math as well, let's say he plays. Let's say you guys, it's very likely he gets 60 against Crystal, scores a goal, comes off. Nottingham again he starts 60. Maybe Villa again. Let's say if he's very fit, he starts Villa, and we're very optimistic over here. That's 3 matches, 180 minutes. Whereas when you give Kane those 3 matches, you get 270 minutes, which is essentially one more match. Those 90 minutes are essentially one more match against Haaland. So, are you comfortable having a player who's playing certain amount of minutes, and will you captain him? So, let's say if he plays 70, 80 odd minutes against Crystal Palace, will you captain him against Nottingham Forest? That's the mindset behind this, because if you're not captaining him, I don't see the upside really. And you can hold him. Obviously, he can come and give damage like in 30 odd minutes. He's Haaland. Obviously, he plays for City. But do you want to hold a player, or maybe make a switch for a player who's decent in form? He's not had bad stats. Kane is looked good. Tottenham are injured, are a good team, and Nottingham and West Ham are one of the worst defenses in the league at the moment. West Ham.
I don't agree with you. I don't think if we don't make Haaland captain, we can still own him. I don't see myself captaining even Kane in against West Ham or Fulham.
So
I might against Fulham, but even against West Ham, I'm not comfortable, as we know that David Moyes is a really good manager, and he might set up very defensively in that match. And we have also seen that Spurs are not creating that many chances. They are also struggling in attack, right? So would you rather have a 60 minutes from a City player or a 90 minutes from a Spurs players who are not creating that many chances? Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, and Aston Villa have conceded tons of chances, and even if Haaland starts in 2 of those matches, I can see him scoring, let's say, 3 goals easily over those 3 fixtures.
I mean, I wouldn't say that he can't score 3 goals, but the point is, with the rotation that's imminent, you know that he's going to get benched eventually. That completely takes off. So maybe you can. It's not. I'm not saying you can sell him for a Kane. You can sell him for a Tony as well. It gives you the opportunity of buying someone like a Kevin De Bruyne in midfield, who most likely will start all the games, and is a captain potential. So the question essentially is: do you want to still hold Haaland in this fixture conjunction when you know that there's game every 3? I don't see him starting more than 3 games in the next 5 Premier League games. I know Tottenham he's nailed. He's gonna start that one. That's obvious.
Of
Palace
course.
Forest will he'll start probably 2 at max. Bulls, I think, irrespectively, due to the UCL fixture, it's very likely he doesn't start at Wolves.
But if the UCL tie before the Spurs game is, UCL draw is about to happen, I think, in next week, right?
This
So
week.
if the okay, this week. So if the fixture is easy, he might not start in that, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
very likely.
there's
Yeah.
a chance. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think it's to be seen. I think from that
Yeah,
UCL
and that is why I
perspective.
think so.
Hmm.
Basically, uh, City versus Forest is a very pen down game where you want to captain a City player. It's a given. I think game week 5, Liverpool play Newcastle, Tottenham play West Ham, where you don't want to captain either of those players, and a City player is the favorite captaincy option there. If let's say they get an easy fixture in match day one, he's probably to get rested there. So you expect him to start Villa. You already expect him to start Palace. Do you see him starting Forest? I don't. So are you comfortable captaining someone where you don't know when you know he's not going to start? Probably he may or may not come for a certain amount of minutes. Yes,
Hmm.
there is a very high ceiling obviously involved with him. But are you confident captaining such a player? If not, is it a decent option to downgrade him to someone who's in form and also get probably a Kane? Maybe if you don't want a Kane, go for a De Bruyne, who you can certainly captain in game week 5.
I think there are pros and cons, right? There are definitely, but my worry is that we are sort of heading into speculation territory, and we're trying to second guess what Pep could do. So I think initially everyone was worried when Haaland joined the league that, oh, Haaland is going to get hooked off at 50 minutes, and Haaland may not start the first game. He stays injured all the while. I think for a very long time at Borussia Dortmund, Haaland did not even hit 90 minutes in any of the game, but he
Yeah.
just completed 90 minutes the other day. So, the City fitness staff, what Pep wants, these are, I think, really crucial factors, and we don't really know what Pep is trying to do. So, I think second guessing that could be a bit risky. I understand both the points where there is upside to Kane, and even the point where you could potentially downgrade him uh, to an Ivan Tony, for example. But Tony, I mean, really, I think it's a big downgrade if you're
I mean,
looking to do that. I understand you could invest the money elsewhere, but
yeah.
the way I see it is an attacker. I think of Haaland and I think of Aguero back in the day and how deadly Aguero used to be. Whenever he used to be fit, and he had his share of injury troubles, and Pep Rowlett, but we knew that Aguero, when he had those fixtures, he used to start games maybe hooked off every now and then 60, 70 odd minutes. So I think we could see something like that in the next six fixtures. I think I like these fixtures, and it's hard to second guess which of the fixtures he might get benched in, but I see at least 4 or 5 starts and decent cameos here and there. And like we've discussed, we've seen players like Salah come on, and get cameos and score a couple of goals. So I think there is definitely upside. But the safe thing for a player like Haaland, who gets so many chances for a team like City, is to hold him there. And if you have doubts, don't captain him. But I think he should be in your team. And he is only going to go up in price. That is my guess. 11.7 already. You don't want to be chasing, and suddenly he's 12 million, and it's the end
I
of the
mean,
world, sort of.
but see, ultimately, see the idea here behind this is as well that you're going to wildcard in game week 8. So it's
Sure.
also a way of chasing more points. Ultimately, there are 4 free transfers you get before your wildcard now, and it's a very obvious thing you're wildcarding in game week 9 post the international break. So do you want to have a player who's not starting all those games? I know they have good fixtures, but if he's not starting them, is it really an viable option to chase
I
points?
think that is the thing, right? We are speculating. We are assuming that Haaland, that will happen, but we don't know.
I mean,
Pep
Pep
could
just mentioned
even.
that he's not going to start in all the games. We'll
Of
obviously play
course.
Yeah,
Alvarez. Yeah,
I think that is sort of a hint that if the fixtures pile up, he could be on the bench. I think that applies to every game. I think all of us really thought,
yeah.
for example, Ruben Diaz is super nailed. He's going to start every game. But the other day, he just puts him on the bench and gives Stones a start. I was really shocked, to be honest. So, yeah, second guessing Pep is a bit of a dicey thing. But yeah, Manan, you want to add something?
Yeah, yeah, of course. So my question is, I have another question that if you downgrade a Haaland, let's say, to a Tony, I wouldn't want to go to KDB because I see Gundogan providing a better value at 7.6, right? So it's more about also whether you want if you want a Gundogan, so which combo is better for me, right? I had this dilemma in my team also. I had Haaland and I had KDB, and I had to sacrifice one person because I went with premium, right? So is a Haaland Gundogan combo better or a KDB Gundo combo better? You also have to see it in that way. Which player are you bringing if you're downgrading, and which player are you bringing? I don't see a lot. I don't like Son, for example, currently because he's in very bad form. Okay, so there are not a lot of players where you want that fund to be used, right? So I would prefer a Gundo over a KDB right now just because of the value he's providing, and I think that also makes a case for Haaland. Yeah.
I mean, ultimately for me, it's basically down to captaincy. In the next five fixtures that City have in the Premier League, apart from Tottenham, or maybe just till game week 8, I don't see myself captaining him in probably more than two fixtures where I know he'll start. I'll probably just captain him there, and that's the thought behind it.
Yeah.
So, what selling Haaland does is it allows me to get another City midfielder, which I can probably captain if I want to. But
Yeah.
this is just giving out a brief idea that for the people who
Yeah.
are looking to sell Haaland, it's not the worst idea.
Of
Probably
course, of course.
you can see if the panel is split. Most people could believe that we can hold Haaland for this stretch, and it's totally
Definitely.
possible in 30 minutes Haaland can score a hat trick. I mean, you can't really neglect the fact that he plays for City. He can do that. He's the beast of that kind. But
Yep.
there is also certain upside in terms of chasing points till your wild card, because
Yep.
that has to be factored in your gameplay right
Of
now.
course.
Definitely, yeah, yeah. Like I said, there are pros and cons, and we don't know which side of variance we'll fall on. And that's a theme, right? Variance.
Yeah.
We make logical decisions, and we try to we hope that we fall on the right side of variance. So yeah, I think we'll know very soon in
So
the coming weeks. Which camp wins, is it the Haaland camp or the Kane camp? But for now, there's another hot topic in the community, and the team that we're talking about is Liverpool, who had nice fixtures to start off, especially game week 1 and game week 3. And Salah has done well, but their defensive assets, Trent, Robertson, Van Dijk, they've not done that well. Liverpool as a team have not looked great as well, and they're conceding goals right now. So we're going to look at that. As you can see, the data over here. Uh, what's happening with you guys? I'm assuming both of you have started with at least one Liverpool defender. Again, let's start with Anshuman. What are your thoughts?
So yeah, I started with one Liverpool defender. I initially had two. I switched Matip out when he was injured to a Walker, and I have Trent in my team. But I don't see it. I don't see myself selling Trent solely because I believe that he's more of an attacker at the moment. He's creating those chances. In terms of specifically the defense, yes, it's probably due to the injuries Liverpool have. In terms of they don't have their first choice centre back pairing, they don't have their first choice midfield, and that is also playing into
Yeah,
their weak defense also, because they've started having this habit of conceding early on in the first half, and it's not limited to this season. If you go back in the last few games of last season as well, Liverpool
yeah,
started conceding goals in the first half and then trying to chase back the game. It's not like they do that for like on purpose, but that's a trend that's happening very often now. So
yeah.
in terms of double defense, I'm very doubtful if someone has. But
Okay.
again, if you have someone like a Van Dijk or a Matip or a Gomez, I would sell them. But Robertson in particular is no sell because of the fixture for me.
Right. What about you, Manan? What are your thoughts?
I also started with Trent and Salah from Liverpool. I think just because Salah has taken such a creative role rather than a goal scoring role, it has affected Liverpool a lot, and it has affected Trent and Robertson as well. Like Salah has created 13 chances in 3 game weeks, but they don't have any finisher to convert it into goals, right? Nunes was looking really good, and then he got that red card, and I think they really missed him in the Manchester United game last night.
Yeah,
So I don't currently see a value in Robertson personally. Okay, I think downgrading him to a Zinchenko, a Perisic. We have a lot of good 5 million options in the midfield, in the defense, and also upgrading let's say a Da Silva. If you have to start those 4.5 and 4 million defenders and midfielders, and upgrading those players to let's say Rodrigo or a Gundogan, I think that provides a better combination. That's a better combination, and that will give you more points over the next 4 game weeks than let's say Salah and a Da Silva, than a Robertson and a Da Silva. So it's not just one transfer. It's you'll have to see it in a combination, right? Which combination at the end? What matters is points. Okay. And Robertson has what, less than 10 ownership, I'm guessing, less than 10% ownership. I think a lot of people are already off him just because Liverpool defense hasn't been the Liverpool defense they are known
Yeah.
for. As we can see on the graphic as well, last season also they overperformed their XGC, right?
Yeah.
Right. So similarly, we can see this season also, right? They have conceded 5 goals from 4 XGC, right? So we can see they are not able to shut down the opponents. We saw Van Dijk had a terrible game last night, right? So I
Yeah.
think I think I'll be off the Robertson route and invest those money into the midfield.
Yeah, I see the thoughts, and like we can look at the data here. I think Liverpool fans should be worried, and of course, FPL managers should also. Uh, 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 a defensive double up at this point is strictly a no for me. And last year we're looking at an overperformance of almost 12. Right, they had an expected goals conceded data of 37.88, and they actually conceded just 26 goals. So that was purely down to how good Allison is. But I think even for Allison, these are just unbelievable numbers. I don't think it is sustainable. That is, my worry that variance could catch up on Liverpool, and we might see that. And we already seeing it in the 3 games so far. They are shipping goals. Uh, I think injuries is a factor mentioned by a lot of people, but I'm not sure how big of a factor that is because they had most of their back four fit and available last year, and there is still a big overperformance if you look at the data. I don't think it is sustainable, which makes me think that maybe we should reconsider the way we look at Liverpool assets as a whole, because at the end of the day, it's not just about the defense; it will affect the team balance. And also, the fact that Salah is now playing a bit of more of a creative role. And again, when Nunes is there, he cannot do what Mane used to do. Last year, he was playing striker in the last 5 or 6 months. So I think we need to be a bit more open-minded when it comes to Liverpool assets as a whole. I think Salah is a fine asset. He's got Bournemouth, upcoming. They have fine fixtures. He probably will do well. One Liverpool wing back probably, and yes, like a defender like Gomez or even Van Dijk is a total non-option for me. In the past, maybe you could consider Van Dijk, but I think just one Liverpool wing back is what I'm looking at. But if you look at this data and if you consider going without a Liverpool defender, I don't think I'm against it because the signs are not very good right now.
So just to add that this is a trend they had last season as well. In the third sec like the last third of the season, they were much better defensively. They were conceding less goals. They were conceding about zero point 0.4 goals from game week 24 to 38. Before that, they were conceding about zero point 0.8, almost the double amount of goals. Same goes around XG and big chances conceded as well. There's kind of a trend with Liverpool. The Liverpool team, they tend to take time in terms of getting the defense sorted and right, and eventually they will get points. But personally, it's not a sell for me. Not this week. You might want to sell Robertson, yes. Can't deny with that fact, but not this game week. I think Bournemouth is the perfect game week where you want them to get back to form.
Of
If you
course,
still,
of course.
if you still had to, I'll just ask this question quickly. If you had both Robertson and Trent, would you sell anyone this week?
So if
For
I had, so if I had 2 free transfers, I might think about it. But if I don't have a lot of fires in my squad, then I might stuck with him. I might choose him for this game week as well, and then maybe ship him off in the next game week.
Okay, Z.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at both their datas out here. I think Trent is definitely creating the chances. Robertson's underlying are not that great, but I would definitely sell if I had to. I would definitely sell, one of them, and I'm also open to selling both. In fact, at this stage, unless that uh, the defensive numbers improve. But yeah, just purely for the attacking numbers, I'll probably hold Trent and get rid of Robertson if
Okay.
it came down to that.
So like
The
all of us agree on holding Trent, and if you are letting someone let go of Robertson.
Yeah, of course. If you have
Definitely.
other fires to put in your team.
Okay.
Definitely.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah,
Okay.
we've covered Liverpool, and I think the general consensus is that their underlying defensive numbers are a problem. Uh, and yeah, let's move on to another topic. And game week one when the prices were released, and the prices were so great, and we all filled our teams with players from top 6 sides. suddenly there's been a bit of shake-up. The guys sitting right at the top are players from teams that are not in the top six. The general top six that we talk about. You're looking at guys like Rodrigo and Ivan Toney. So that's the question that the community is asking right now: that are we ignoring players outside top six teams? And yeah, we've got some data out here, and we will discuss some of them at length. Again, let's start with you, Anshuman. What are your thoughts?
Do we have the space or bandwidth to get one of them in? Probably yes. I think the template does have that space. Abhi, should we knee jerk and go and overload our team with two or three out of these options or more options? I don't think so. Yes, they'll be performing decent, but again, it's an outlet of game week 3 probably or game week 2 because they performed really well, and you think they outperformed. Obviously, they had easier fixtures. This is not going to happen every game week where they play amongst each other. They're going to play the big six eventually, and you don't expect these kinds of point every game week. I think certain players, yes, they're outstanding in terms of form, and their fixtures are great as well. So you might want to jump on one or at max two of them. But it's certainly down to the fact that the core of the template is so strong and it's just been shaken up in this game week. I think the first two game weeks are fine; they're totally good, and I don't expect this game week to be repeated in game week 4 or 5 because the fixtures are much easier for the top six teams, and then they tend to get more points in these fixtures. So, are we ignoring? Not really. There are some popular picks which are getting. I think Rodrigo and Gross are two probably picks which are getting very popular amongst the community. Even Tony, at to a certain extent, is getting very popular. So I don't think we're ignoring it, but certainly we should consider at least one of them, because these players are probably the ones who are in form.
Yeah, I think so. We don't have space for all of them, but yeah, some of them really do stand out. Are you looking at any of them, Manan?
Yeah, so I am looking at Tony, Rodrigo. I'm not so sure on Gross, just because I'm not too sure about Brighton as a team, and they have been on and off in the past as well, where they go on a scoring run, and like after that they just fell off the roof. They struggled to score some goals, and we saw Gross well back. You know, every Brighton player has been doing well according to
Yep.
their price. They are providing great value, but I'm certainly interested in Rodrigo and Tony. Um, Zaha and Madison, as you can see on the screen, they don't have that good fixtures. Zaha is very tempting. He always does well in the difficult fixtures. We know that, but it's very difficult to just bring him in for those. But yeah, Tony, I think is a great option going forward. He provides an excellent value. The fixtures as fixture for Brentford are Everton, Crystal Palace, Leeds, Southampton. The all these teams are just conceding like on an average 1.52 goals uh, in every game week, and I think he can do really well.
So
Even even Rodrigo, I think his underlying has been terrific. I mean, he is just outperformed, and we have heard Marsh that he has spoken so highly of him. Right? He's also on penalties. He clearly stated. I think these are really good picks, but as Anshuman said, it's really important to find the right balance between the premiums and the budget players. You can't just fill up your whole team with the players from mid-table teams. So
Definitely. Yep.
it's very important to choose the right ones.
So I just ask you, right? Just giving context here for our audience. I think Brighton are first on the ticker from game week 4 till game week 8. Then we have Brentford, who's second. Leeds are fourth. Leicester are fifth bottom. Crystal are fourth bottom. Just setting up the context that the fixtures are not equivalent for all these players. They're just the picks we find are in good form and are popular in the community at the moment, are a good differentials if you want to break away from the template. Personally, I don't think I would favor the fixtures. Yes, there is, if there's form and fixtures, particularly from a team that is not consistent, I think then you can go for their player, which, and that is why Tony, Gross, and Rodrigo stand out for me. Madison, Zaha, not so much. Yes, they've been consistent in the past, but the fixtures get tougher from here on.
Of course.
Yeah, so yes, Madison has been great in this entire year, in this 2022 year. He's been scoring goals, free kicks. He's getting into position. He's playing in the number 10 role, which is suiting him a lot. But again, the fixtures get tough, and that is when I don't want him. Zaha is doing exceptions. He's on penalties again. He has a poor record. He's missed 3 out of the 6 penalties he's like had in the last season and this season combined. So And I personally don't go Zaha because I've burned my hands too much with Zaha. He just doesn't score points for me.
Who hasn't? Who hasn't? Yeah.
So I mean, if I had to stop him from scoring goals, I probably just get him into my FPL team, and it will work. Trust me. So for me, it's Tony, Gross, and Rodrigo. I think I give precedence to fixtures. Gross is not a bad option. His new role is probably, which is what stands out for me. Yes, I know Brighton is kind of a dodgy team in terms of XG. They score a lot. They like put up a lot of XG, but they don't convert those chances. But I think this year is a bit different. I think Welbeck is important because he has been linking up very well. He is one of those players who can convert the low XG shot into a goal, and that is what stands out for me in that Brighton attack as well. They've been good on the counter. They're not. They're still very system oriented, and I think these players fit in well, and Brighton are doing this. And so, in terms of the team which was last season, I don't think it's the same Brighton. I think they're much better, and that is why Gross is probably the highest priority option for me, followed by Rodrigo because I think he's a probably in better in terms of form. I like Leeds more because they attack more. They are just not reliant on counters. I think Brentford. I mean, I'm just going outright way and saying that they rely a bit more on counters, but yes, they do. And I think Rodrigo and Leeds are more often they play more attacking football. I think they tend to score more goals.
Just one thing. Just I wanted to add an point on Madison. As we can see here, he has 3.33 shots per 90. But if you're watching the match, you know he's taking most of the shots from outside the box. His
Yeah.
shots in the box per 90 is just one. Okay, and it's very we know it's very difficult to consistently score from outside the box. We know he can do it. The free kick was absolutely terrible. Like it was ridiculous. I couldn't believe it. The angle he took, and yeah, it was really nice. So just wanted to add this point that just don't rely on him from. He generally takes all the shots from outside the box, and the data here it's very good. 3.33 shots per 90 for a player who's playing number 10 is really good. But we have to remember that he's taking most of the shots from outside the box.
But I think
Definitely.
he's getting
Yeah,
inside the box a lot more than last season. I mean,
of course, yeah.
since a while, I think he's getting inside the box a lot more. Even in game week 1, he had those 2 or 3 shots inside the box where he could have like converted those chances. But again, he's getting inside the box a lot more than before, which is a slight change in terms of how he's structured his play this season.
I think it's purely down to the quality of Leicester as a team, right? Uh, Madison is making a lot of runs inside the box, but they don't have enough quality to find him. And Madison as a player, he's someone who is a creative outlet. So yeah, he's making those runs, but I think it does not come naturally to him, and that's also reflected in the data here. If you rightly pointed out, he's got like 3.33 shots per 90 minutes, but you look at his xg data, it's just 0.5. So he spams shots, but it's not that great. Compare him to a Rodrigo, who is much cheaper, really talked up by the manager of Leeds United, of course. Could be on penalties as well. We don't know that. We'll see if Bamford is back and he still takes the penalties. We're not sure about that. But as things stand, he is taking a lot of shots. 4.96. That's almost 5 shots per game,
Yeah.
and his XG data is quite good as well. So I think I like Rodrigo. I think they are all good options. The ones that we're looking at us at right now. I also like Jack Harrison, who has also done well. I think he's created the most chances in the league so far, if I'm not wrong. He's
Yeah.
just really having fun in that new role that he's being given by the new manager. So there's plenty of potential. I think you really can't go wrong with a lot of these picks. But yeah, my personal preference is Rodrigo, but I can see all of them doing well, and they all have their pros and cons as well. So yeah, we have given you the data. I think there's a lot of context behind data as well. So it's a case of making your picks and hoping it pays off.
Yeah, and
In
talking of
psychology.
context, Leicester are second bottom in terms of big chance and XG created
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
big chance total. So it's not like big. I mean, if the tough fixtures come up and they're not or at all creating good chances at the moment as well, I think
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
dicey pick. Yes, he might tempt you, and he's in the 8 million bracket. It's easy to switch or like sell him and go for another 8 million player because there are a lot of options. But again,
Yeah.
is would I sell someone like a Diaz or a Kulusevski for him? Probably won't. Even for a Foden, I think For the in that price bracket, Madison Zaha, I think Gundogan fits in perfectly. Where you have that amount of money, and Gundogan is playing very well.
Uh,
So I
also the
would,
fix also the fixtures is a very important thing. Yes, Chelsea, Man United, we don't know how they'll play, but yeah, Brighton, I think, and then Aston Villa and then Tottenham. I think the fixtures are terrible for Leicester. And also
yeah.
the thing is, Vardy is not the same Vardy as we know him. Like, of course, he's aging, of course, and he's also signed a new contract. Everything, keeping everything aside, he has not been the player who starts, every season he starts really well, but this has not been the same season. So I think it also affects Madison in some way. I'll not go. I myself won't go near Madison in the next 4 5 game weeks. Maybe on a wild card, game week 8,
Post game
week
again.
9 wild card. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He
So
might be.
if you guys had to pick one player, who would you pick out of these five?
Uh, what about you, see?
I'll go Rodrigo. I think there are a lot of pros in it. In his he's got good data. He's been hyped up by his manager as well. The others are good, but yeah, Rodrigo for me definitely. He's the pick of the bunch.
Mm,
Manan.
I myself will go with Tony. I think I
Okay.
like him a lot. I think he's creating the chances as you can see here, and scoring goals, and he's also on penalties. I think at 7.2 you can't go wrong with Tony. I
So
think
I mean, we didn't discuss Tony a lot in depth. So I mean, could you give us more insight on why Tony? What, like, have you been watching the Brentford games or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that?
I think Brentford as a whole team have been really performing really well. I mean, they are very good when they attack. As you said, they rely more on counter attacks. But whenever they do, they're really good when they attack. As you can see here from the stats, he's not he basically in Tony you get more of a chance creator plus a person who will oddly score a goal, right? So as you can see here, he has what, 2 goals, 2 assists already in 3 matches, and for 7.2, I think that's a great value, especially when the premiums are not delivering upon onto their value, right? So I think moving from let's say I started from a premium, right? I think downgrading a premium to a Tory and then upgrading somewhere makes more sense.
So are you on the Haaland out Kane train, because that's the
No,
route to
no,
get in Tony, I think.
but I think not at the expense of Haaland, right? Not at the expense. Maybe like say, let's say if you have a Son or a KDB, right? And if you can downgrade him to a Rodrigo or a Gundogan and then upgrade your 4.5 to a Tony, I'm all for it. I think that's a better move.
I'm very curious how you're setting up your team, because I mean, if you're going for Tony, you're essentially either and let's say the must have Jesus is kind of a must have. He's
Of course.
80% owned. Can't sell him. You think Haaland is good to hold.
Yeah.
You probably shifting to a three forward
Of course,
situation.
I
Yeah.
think that is the correct way to go. Just looking at all the fixtures and all, you can see Brentford are almost what top at the ticker, right? Second, I think, right? So I think Tony can do really well, and yeah, this you can't go
Yeah.
wrong at that
No,
that price.
I just don't feel that the three forward situation is right at the moment, and I only say this because I think if you have that 8 million midfielder bracket or a 7 million midfielder spot, there's a lot you can do with your free transfers till your wild card. You can play the fixtures better because the 8 million spot gives you midfielders from a premium team, which a
But
Tony wouldn't.
are the premium performing as per
I
their
think
price
Gundogan is
brackets?
performing. I think Diaz has two great fixtures to come up with. Foden did decent in game week 2 as well. I know Mount isn't
I,
performing,
I
but he's an
think
option.
I also feel that they also had good fixtures in game week 1 to 3, right? But they were not. I think no one went with Gundo, of course. But let's say Diaz, he scored 1 goal, okay. But in comparison, if you see Tony, he has been
But
performing against all the teams, right?
do you see Tony outscoring a Diaz in the next 3 or 4 games?
I do, yeah.
I don't. I
In
think
in,
Diaz
in the
Diaz
in the
stands out
next
now.
in the next four, I do see Tony outscoring Diaz comfortably. Yeah.
That's a big take, huh? I mean, we will probably take this as a screenshot and then look
Yeah.
back
I
at it in
think
4 games.
I think there's a case for both. I can easily see a 4-3-3 working out well. It's not
Exactly.
that you have to pick one. You can go three up front and have a Tony or a Mitro. So Mitrovic is another one who has unbelievable numbers. Like last game, he scored 1 goal, but he missed 4 big chances.
Weak
That is
chances.
Yeah.
ridiculous. He had 8 shots. So I think there's a case for a Tony. There's a case of that third striker who is not Haaland or Jesus or Kane. I think there's definitely a case of that. You could have a Salah or a KDB, a one premium midfielder. You have a 8 million midfielder, and you have a Martinelli or someone. So I think there's definitely a case. I think that is the beauty of prices these years. A lot of people have complained that the prices are not great. I really like the prices this year. It gives multiple routes to points. Multiple strategies. So a lot of ways to skin the cat, and I see a case of the third striker for sure. And if you look at the table right now, these mid-price strikers are actually doing quite well. And yeah, if the fixtures are fine, I don't see any harm in punting on them and going 4-3-3 for sure.
Yeah,
So
and the additional advantage you get with such a player or a player from a top six outside the top six is probably less rotation in terms of they don't have
exactly,
the
yeah.
UCL plus more guaranteed minutes. Something you can
Definitely. Yeah,
wonder
yeah,
And
yeah.
about.
That's a good point.
that was definitely my target at the start of the season to go towards this mid-table teams, players from mid-table teams, just because of the share rotation, like 2 games in every 6 days, right? On
Hmm.
an average. So I think that's very difficult for, and with the five subs rules, I think we'll struggle. We'll get a lot of 55, 58 minutes
Definitely.
substitutions for those players, and especially
Okay.
especially a player like Tony or Rodrigo. If they are doing good, then that's the cherry on the top. You can
Okay.
easily go towards them. Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I tend to agree. And, we discussed about Haaland being a rotation risk. I think every player from the
player.
top, from the side that is playing in the Champions League could be a rotation risk, but we don't know that, right? It's a bit of, again,
I mean it's not
speculating right now.
necessary a rotation risk. I think because the last 2 seasons teams are used to there will be certain rotation obviously, but
Definitely.
they have the option of deploying a team which is probably they still stick to the core and then sub them off after if they're winning the game.
Yeah.
That's a genuine possibility
Yeah,
every game.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's something that we discuss. I think that applies to Haaland and everyone. I think we've seen Salah at times being rotated last year under Klopp when people were not expecting. We've seen Robertson being subbed, getting rested for Simicas at times. So I think we're heading towards that territory. So it's not really wise to take off all your top six players and fill them with Rodrigo and Tony. And I
Yeah.
think yeah, one or two punts here and there, I think is
of
definitely
course.
viable. And yeah, but the core of your FPL team should definitely be filled with teams that score the most goals, which is obviously the likes of City, Liverpool, and someone like Arsenal who are actually doing very well. Not much to add about them because it's very obvious. Jesus is 80% owned, so it's like stating the obvious. But yeah, I think this is definitely they warrant attention, and a couple of punts are it's far from bad.
Okay.
So yeah, I
Again,
think
yeah, I mean
yeah,
that's pretty much it. We've covered about
pretty
this.
much
And
covers
talking
that.
about rotation, we
Yeah,
have the hot topic on rotation, I think.
Yeah.
Uh,
definitely.
Ivan
Yeah,
Perisic.
the next big talking point, Perisic,
Yeah.
started last week
I
his
think
first match in the league.
we all agree that he's a great guy, great
Of
pick
course,
in
of
terms
course.
of
I mean,
FPL. He did well in terms of he was in great position. He was second highest, third highest player in terms of average position.
yeah,
Had couple of chances to shoot. He didn't shoot. He chose to pass. If he had shot, I
yeah.
think there were more points there. And I mean, he is the hot property and hot discussion point at the moment in this game week. But in terms of if you have him, obviously you play him. If you don't have him, how do you buy him? Who do you sell him? Like who do you sell to buy him?
Or do you
And do
buy
you
him?
buy him or not?
Yeah, yeah. Of course, of course. I think we all three don't own Perisic, right?
Yeah, none of us
And
also.
I think it was a very difficult watch, that games against Wolves. I mean, he was so good. He was just running, and the whole Tottenham team was uh, were playing those long balls over the defenders to Perisic. He was offside for like 2 3 times, but I think he was just terrific. He had the average position, I think, as same as Son, I think, right?
Yeah,
And on that left flank, he was just running and running. And he was such a good watch. If only he shot, instead of passing on those opportunities. And I think the people, the managers who own him, they took a risk, and they are fairly
it
rewarded.
paid off. Yeah, but
But
would you get him? The question is, are you planning to get him, and do you want to get him?
I do want to get him, but I would, just because of this rotation. He's a terrific player. We all know that, but but as we said, there are midweek fixtures. As we said, there are midweek fixtures,
Yeah.
kicking game and everything, and we know how much Conte loves to rotate the wing backs, right? And
Yep.
I think we'll see that very often with Perisic, and that's the only reason I wouldn't go there.
So Z, you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's like not. It's again, it's stating the obvious. Perisic is a great wing back. We saw it last game. I think the data does not do him justice. There were a lot of times where he could have been played on, and his teammates couldn't find him. So uh, uh, I think one important thing to consider is that there were reports that he could have picked up a fresh injury after the last game. So I think that is something to keep an eye out on if you're looking to get Perisic. But yeah, if you disregard that injury news and if Perisic is fit and available, I think I really like this guy. He's very attacking. He's worth the risk, in my opinion. And if Conte at all decides not to play him, you've got someone like Pereira who could come on for 4.5. 2-pointer, not bad at all. But when he starts, and I expect him to start like 3 out of 4 games, and I think that's really good value. And this is a guy who can get you double-digit hauls and plays for a Conte side who are known to be defensively solid. So yeah, I'm very high on Perisic. I did not start the season with him, but I'm considering him, and yeah, very much comfortable to take the odd benching here and there.
So my take is slightly different. I don't have Perisic. I do have routes to get him. I can sell James. I can upgrade Walker by taking a hit as well, directly as well. But do I want him? No. The same reason I think I don't. So there's it's a vague territory. Yes, I if he starts this one against Nottingham, he could haul big. Nottingham are the weakest on their right flank where Perisic will play. I think they've considered about 25 chances there, maximum shots from that side as well. But the problem is game week 5. I don't see him starting if he starts this one. The second problem or the third problem probably is UCL, because I don't know whether Conte will prefer Perisic in the UCL or the Premier League, and it's a vague territory because we really don't know if it becomes that he is preferring him for the UCL matches. I don't see him starting the PL matches, and I don't think there is a necessity because Sessignon is playing very well. They have a backup who's doing exceptionally good, who's hungry to play games, and they will tend to play him. And if whenever necessary, as Conte did, he uses the 5 subs very well, and he'll put on Perisic if it is required, if they're drawing a game or losing a game. So personally, for me, I wouldn't do that.
I-
But if you had a Robertson or James, would you sell them for a Perisic this week? If someone's looking to buy Perisic, would you sell
if
a Robertson or James?
exactly as we discussed in the Liverpool defense section, if I have two transfers and if I have a Robertson and if I'm looking for a player in that 5.5 million, I'll go there because as you mentioned, the upside is huge. I think he can go for a 15 pointer, 20 pointer against the Nottingham Forest, right? Who also concede a lot of chances in that flank, as you
And
mentioned.
then
So
you bench him probably in the other games.
yeah, because there are so many good benching options also, right? Like you can come on, and we know if he's benched and if let's say Spurs are not performing well, Conte might bring him on at 45 minutes. You're
Yeah.
getting a good 30, 45 minutes. I think Sessegnon won't last for 66 more than 60, 65 minutes. So you're getting a 25, 30 minute from Perisic even when he's benched, and we know he can even double haul, like double, he can have a double digit haul in those 25, 30 minutes. I think if someone has Robertson, I'll go there, but not on the expense of James.
Okay, so my take would be simple. I wouldn't sell Robertson ahead of Bournemouth. James, I might consider. If you have Cucurella, definitely I'd consider. The only reason I might consider this is James could continue playing right centre back in all the Premier League games. This one against Leicester, I think I can see him starting right wing back because we just lost a game. But as we progress in the UCL games, Aspilicueta is very likely, or maybe if we don't sign someone, he's very likely to play the right wing back role in the UCL games and shift back to right centre back as he is in the Premier League games. This is a genuine possibility, and I'm not convinced with Chelsea's defense at the moment, especially with the Koulibaly red card. So if you already have backup in terms of Cucurella, or maybe just because you can ditch James and not really, you can take a punt. Perisic does have that upside, but also uh, mentioning this for the people who are interested in buying him, you need to have a good bench because your bench will come handy in certain game weeks coming up, especially game week 5.
Of course.
Personally, in
Yeah,
my team, I'm not going there despite I have James, but it's not because I don't have cover. I don't have a decent bench. Neither do have Chelsea defense cover. But if you want to, it's not a no route for me. I think if I could have gotten Perisic, I would have. I don't have the adequate funds probably for Walker to Perisic. That is something if you have, you should probably do. I think I would do Walker to Perisic.
Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah, there are again, pros and cons. I don't necessarily think it has to be a Robertson to Perisic or a James to Perisic move, right? Perisic can be a fourth defender. You've got Trent, you've got Robertson, you've got James, and you've got a couple of you've got a Diaz, Cancelo. There are plenty of options. So those main defenders could be a three defenders, and Perisic can definitely be a fourth defender.
So
So
you would you
I
sell?
don't think it's worth the
I mean,
sacrifice.
I'm just cutting you here, but would you sell a Cancel or a Diaz for a Perisic?
I
Over,
don't have to. That's the thing, right? I'm
but
looking at
that's the
But for the
question. If you
peak,
have
for the
five big
managers,
defenders,
yeah.
if you have Trent, Cancelo, Diaz, Robertson, and let's say James, who would you
hmm,
sell out of these for Perisic?
if I'm looking at being optimal, I'm considering a situation where we have a wing back from each of these teams. I've got Trent from Liverpool, I've got Cancelo from City, I've got Reece James from Chelsea. These are my
Okay.
three defenders that will get me the points. That's been the trend in recent seasons. I'm looking at my fourth defender now. I think
Okay.
Perisic definitely ticks that box well. So in your case, what you're saying is a very team dependent question where you've got a
Yeah.
defensive double up, or you've got a Cucurella and James. In those cases, yeah, I think it's down to the each FPL manager depending on their teams. But if you're talking about it as a whole, and you've already got these defenders, I don't think you need to get rid of them. Have Perisic as your fourth defender. Have a decent first sub. I think he can definitely get the job done, and he's definitely worth the risk of the odd benching here and there.
Okay.
So yeah,
So
So we all,
I'll just
yeah.
quickly ask by player. Would you sell James? I think no for all. No for Z. Manan, no. I would. Would you sell Robertson?
I
Z.
would, yeah, for
if
a
I had
Perisic.
two Liverpool defenders, I would, but I
Isolation.
wouldn't have
In
two.
isolation, would you sell Robertson this week to a Perisic? Let's say you have Trent, you have Robertson as well. Would you sell Robertson
If I have, yeah, I probably would. We've
ahead of
discussed this,
Bournemouth?
right? Yeah, definitely,
I
definitely.
wouldn't. I wouldn't. So this is where we stand. I wouldn't
I
sell
think I think
Robertson.
it's
Basically,
important. I think it's important to consider that you're just looking at it one game week. Bournemouth at home. You look at the larger picture. Look at the next three fixtures,
But
and
that's the.
Liverpool will have three more fixtures. Spurs will also have three more fixtures.
But Perisic
So
won't play those three fixtures. That's the larger
again,
picture.
we don't know that. You're
But
speculating.
that's pretty obvious. You know that he's not going to start every 3 days. You know
but
that's the given fact.
But are we sure about it? Has Conte come out and said it?
I
We
mean,
don't know that.
you everyone. I mean, that's the
I,
kind of a reason why he didn't start the first 2 game weeks, in my opinion.
I think it's down to building fitness, right? If
I
I'm
think it's clear to say that, like, if we are looking for a defender, then Perisic is the one we'll downgrade or upgrade to, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's
definitely,
really
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
I,
that's there. Yeah, that's there.
even if he
I think
even
there's
if
a
he plays,
reason.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a
Even if he
reason
plays in
he's a
alternate
hot
games,
pick
yeah,
right now because he had his first start. People have seen what in the preseason, like, oh, Perisic, wow, there's a new shiny toy. What does he do? Now people have seen what that new shiny toy does, and I think any sensible manager, if he's buying a defender who is better than his counterparts, I think everyone agrees that Perisic is the best wing back at Spurs. Now,
yeah,
what is
of
more
course,
important to Conte? He wants Perisic to build his fitness. How does he build fitness? He needs to play games. He needs to start Premier League games. Perisic is not here to start 14, 15 Premier League games out of 38. He's here to start most games, and he could get the odd rest here and there. So, yeah, a lot of things could change. But I think if you want to win the lottery, it's important to buy the lottery ticket. And
Yeah.
Perisic is that lottery ticket. So, yeah, I would like to buy that lottery ticket and see if I get lucky and fall in the towards the right side of variance. I think it just purely comes down to that. It's not a question of Trent has to be sold for Perisic. No, you can have these guys and you can still have Perisic. I can see a lot of teams who've got guys like Walker. Perisic and
Yeah.
Walker is a non-comparison. I
Yeah, I
think
would.
he
I,
is a
I would
very
upgrade.
superior player.
definitely,
I would
definitely. But
definitely sell Walker for an upgrade.
would you sell him for a -4? That's the question here.
No, if you, I think that applies to most. It's not a
Exactly.
Perisic question.
Hmm.
-4 is in general not optimal. But some managers like me, if people have seen on Twitter, sometimes I just take a -4 because I want to. Again, it's that lottery ticket logic, right? I want those tickets. So it's purely down to your style of play, how aggressive you are. But even sensibly, I think it's not a Trent or a Perisic or a Cancelo or a Perisic. I think it's those three plus
Along
Perisic,
with
and
Perisic,
there's
yeah.
there's
Yeah,
definitely upside to it.
that's fair enough. Okay, we've had a
So
share bit
yeah,
on this, and
a lot of a lot of Perisic, a lot of
yeah, yeah.
divided opinions on Perisic.
Hmm.
But yeah, the next thing is we're going to look at the game week 4 fixtures and see which fixture sort of stands out to us. So let's. What are your thoughts, man? On any particular fixture that you are looking at that you think could get us big FPL points?
I just want to point out one more thing regarding Manchester United. So
Okay.
as we can see, they play what Southampton and Leicester, and we saw what they can do against the counter-attacking teams, right? I mean the teams, right, who attack more and
Yeah.
who play high defensive line. And I think if someone is impressed, I don't know if they are or not, but if someone is impressed by Sancho or a Rashford, I think it's a good game week to take a punt on them, just because I know it's just a one game week sample, but they were really good last, and I think they'll build on that victory over Liverpool. So I think against Southampton and Leicester, they both play a very high defensive line, and Rashford and Sancho can make those runs, and on the counter attack as well, they can do really good. So I think just worth pointing out that if someone wants to go there, I think Rashford is what 6.2. I think he dropped zero point 0.3 million. I think 0.2, 0.3 million from his original price. So if someone wants, I know Anshuman is shaking his head.
I'm absolutely not interested, guys. One game week, it was at
I
home. The
know.
atmosphere was with them. I think Liverpool were in general poor.
Just
Uh,
wanted to point
I
out.
mean, Southampton could be a good game to punt. Yes, I
Yeah.
believe in that. Leicester, I don't think so. That's an easy game. Yeah, they're defensively poor, so it depends on how Brendan Rodgers sets up, and it depends totally on him. He does that always, but
Also,
still, I wouldn't jump on them right away.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
I think it's a fair punt. So United situation this year, it reminds me of Arsenal from last year. If anyone remembers, Arsenal last year started off and they lost like 3 games in a row, and it was people now say that it was a meme, but everyone was serious back then. They were worried
Of
about
course.
Arsenal, and they were pretty confident that Arsenal would end up somewhere mid-table or below. I was seeing relegation shouts. So if you compare the situation, the Arteta and the Ten Hag situation is sort of very similar. I'm not saying that Man United will definitely go out and be a top 4 contender, but from what I've seen and what I've followed Ten Hag, I think I really like his profile, and it may take time for him to implement his philosophy. But I saw signs against Liverpool. I saw the defenders were very aggressive. Lisandro Martinez. I saw that one bit where he just goes charging towards Salah and he takes him out. So these footballers at Manchester United, they're definitely talented. We've seen that in the past, but they've fallen off. I think now they have a manager who can turn things around. So I think it could be a worth a punt. Maybe not too many players. Like you said, Manan. Maybe a Sancho or a Rashford. Depending on how good your team is. If you don't have any other fires to put out, if you're lucky that way, the price is really good, and I think it could be worth a chance. Uh, but I understand why people are it's United and the way they've been in recent times. People will be put off, but if you like that upside chasing, if you want to sort of try to be ahead of the curve, I think it's definitely a good shout, Manan. Uh, Rashford and Sancho, both great shouts. Anything that stands out to you, Manan, in this week's fixtures?
Aside from the top six, I think I like Brentford and Everton. And I don't know what are you guys' opinion on the Brighton and Leeds fixture. Okay, Brighton have been solid defensively as well this season. And for people going with Rodrigo, can they wait a week, or I mean, how do you see this fixture play out? Like,
Yeah, I think see, again, Brighton have been doing great, really good underlying stats. With your logic, this is so Rodrigo caught my attention, and I tweeted about it. And my thought was, okay, I'm going to wait for Chelsea and then get him in. But ended up doing really well in Chelsea. So that is my thinking right now. Just get him in. Maybe he doesn't do well versus Brighton, but I'm looking at his next 5 or 6 fixtures, and I think they're pretty good. And Brighton are doing all right, but you never know if there's an early goal in that game. It could be a very open game. Brighton are pretty good going forward as well. So I think it does not matter if Leeds lose that game, but if it's like a 3-2 or something and Brighton win, but as long as Rodrigo gets something out of that game in terms of fantasy returns, I think it's worth a shot. So yeah, if you're looking at getting him in, I think yeah, why not? You just get him in, and it's one less thing to worry about. Uh, yeah, that's a fair shot. Anything that stands out to you, Anshuman, out of these
I mean,
fixtures?
obviously Nottingham Tottenham stands out to me. first, and I think Villa could do decent if they find up their attacking form, like first choice attacking formation. And the third thing about Brighton and Leeds, as you asked, Manan, Sanchez has been making a lot of saves. So I've not seen the games totally, but it also gives me a hint in terms of stats that it's not a non-penetrative kind of a situation. And Brighton do play high. They have a high line, and Leeds perish on counter attack. They've been doing great on counter attacks. So I don't see this as a very traditionally this game has been very low scoring, but this time I think it could be the other way around. They could be where both teams score goals, and I am looking forward to it. I have Rodrigo in my team, and I bought him before Chelsea, and he scored 13 points. So that's
Wow,
there, and I'm
great
holding him
find.
obviously. But I think it's not going to be as low scoring as people are expecting it to be.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's fair points. And we've covered United. I think Leeds a good shot. And you look at the big boys, right? City are
Yeah,
playing Palace, and Liverpool have a home fixture against Bournemouth. So those are the two fixtures that stand out. Obviously, the likes of Haaland and Salah will definitely be in contention. Arsenal again, Gabriel Jesus, he's playing like the reincarnation of R9 these days. It's a whole new player, and 8 million. I think it's a joke of a price, but yeah, we have him luckily. It's
yeah,
one player that we don't have to look at for the whole season. I think that's how good he is. Uh, and I think my favorite fixture again would be the Spurs one. Not
mm,
Nottingham. I think we'll cover this in detail because next up we're
yeah.
gonna talk about the
I,
captaincy dilemma.
I think
And
we should. Yeah, we should just we should cover the big games in the captaincy.
Hmm.
definitely.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we're looking at the three big guns, Kane, Haaland, and Salah, who have been talked up as the major captaincy candidates. And again, I was talking about Spurs, and I look at this, and I look at Nottingham's underlying data, 5.9 xGC, and they've conceded just thrice. That's because Henderson is making a lot of saves. Uh, I really like a Spurs attacker, and that's one of the reasons why I like Perisic a lot for this game. Uh, what are you guys thinking? Who is your pick out of these three? Again, we'll ask you, Manan. What are your thoughts?
I think Nottingham Forest is the standout fixture among all these three. But it also we also have to see the teams, right? Tottenham are not exactly like creating a lot of chances. They are not that good in attack, as they have been in the recent past. So we also have to see, and I always lean towards Haaland. I mean,
yeah.
he City, the way City are playing, the way they are creating chances, and even Crystal Palace against a Villa side also were considered, I think, 14 shots, and I can see City easily going for a 20 shots, and Liverpool and Spurs both are not very free flowing in attack right now. Liverpool and Spurs. So I think I'm currently towards leaning towards Haaland. What about you, Anshuman?
I think I think I would even put Jesus in this mix. I think it's not a
Mm.
bad captaincy option if you want to. Although I was eyeing at a Kane or a Salah captaincy, but what I saw in the highlights in the Nottingham game is that basically they're not an outright attack at home. Yes, they came back to the Premier League, and there's a tendency to attack more at home, but they've been defending quite deep. And yes, they are very poor in terms of through chances through the center and the right, and they've conceded ton of chances in the game against West Ham. But the fact that they tend to set up a bit deeper for that counter attacking, because it sets them up well for the counter attack as well. I'm slightly worried in terms of captaining Kane. Yeah, although I've talked to a lot of Nottingham Forest fans throughout the day, and they still believe that despite however they set up, their quality isn't in terms of matching Tottenham, and Tottenham will easily score 3-4 goals against them. So if you're there, you can go. But personally, I'm still going to stick to Salah. I think at home, I believe there might be a change in terms of formation. 4-2-3-1 could be on the card. Salah could be up top, and I'm looking forward to this game. I think still Salah at home when they need a desperate win. Yes, he's not been in top form, but I think at home against Bournemouth, he's a great record against Bournemouth as well. And probably when Liverpool need a, a win desperately, I think it's probably the home game you want to favor.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Salah's great. So I think so far far we've got Manan, who's very keen on Haaland. Anshuman is keen on Salah. But like I started off, I think we have a split again here. Three different captaincy choices. He's not in my team right now, but I really fancy Kane. I'm just these are rubbish numbers. And sorry if a Nottingham Forest fan is listening to this, but these are bad numbers. And Henderson is a good keeper, but I'm worried for him. I think he's going to have a very tough game against Spurs. It's an away game for Spurs. I understand Forest will be at home, but I think that sort of plays into Spurs' favor because it's a home game. They're newly promoted very early in the season. I think at some point they'll have a go at Spurs, and
Yeah.
that will sort of play into there could be goals here, and 3 or 4 goals, and Kane is on penalties. Really
Yeah.
fancy him, but I have to figure out whether personally for my team, if there's a way I can bring him in. I don't have him right now, but if you have Kane, I think just slap the armband. That's what I would do. But all three of them, I think, are really strong shouts this week. Each of them.
I think we'll see a lot of variance this
Way
game week
definitely.
as well. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I would have Captain Kane if I had him, but unfortunately, yeah, I'm eyeing to get him. But again, the highlights put me off a bit. So if there's
Mm.
certain information that I find, or if I go through the match again, and I see that it's the high line is not that, like, the deep line, sorry, is not that effective, and
Yep.
Spurs can go past it, and I would probably Captain Kane if I had him. So first picks, I think Z is very pro on Kane. That's your first choice, Captain
Definitely, definitely.
Manan.
Yeah.
Haaland. Let's just sum up the like 1, 2, 3 now from the like for me it would be Haaland, Salah, and then Kane. What about you,
Okay.
Anshuman?
So for me, it would be Kane, Salah, and then probably Haaland. And Haaland only because I think it's reduced minutes. I don't see him playing. If he plays the 90, I would love it if I'm selling him off, and he hopefully doesn't outscore Kane. But I see it to be a game where they are probably winning, and he gets subbed off at 60.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, my top three, I think I would again very keen on Kane. So I would go with Kane, and Son, and number three. I think it's a toss up between Haaland or KDB. I think
Okay, yeah.
Crystal Palace at home could be a sort of a game where they sort of park the bus and
Yeah.
they are like we saw against Bournemouth, right? They're around Haaland and KDB benefits from that because he's playing right behind him in that advanced 8 role. So I think if you own KDB, he could be a good shout. But yeah, the Spurs boys are definitely top two for me in terms of
And
captaincy.
no Jesus for anybody.
Yeah,
No,
I
no,
think
no.
Versus Fulham. It's versus Fulham at home. I mean, he should be
I,
given a consideration
of
at
course,
home,
of
at least.
course, of course. He is a great shot. It's just we have some proven players who have done for us,
I
done
mean,
very well for us in the
he's
past.
top for all charts. The only thing that personally puts me off is that he's already 80% owned. So around
Mm.
your A is probably similarly owned around your EO, and some people certainly captain. So the gain in terms of points is not adequate. I think if you captain someone like a Kane, the gain in points is much larger than a Jesus, and that is why I'm put off by Jesus captaincy always. I think he stand out in terms of form and stats, and the fixture also suits him. It's at home. I don't think Fulham will be exceptionally great. So if you have Jesus, you should consider him. But again, what puts me off is the effective ownership that comes into play, because Matt does come into play for me at least, and I want the maximum gain of points I can get from my captain.
Yeah,
Of course.
I think Jesus is definitely a fair shout. Effective ownership is definitely a factor, but if you look, I'm looking at it purely from a points
Points
perspective. That
perspective, yeah.
Of
yes, his
course.
effective ownership is really high. At the end of the day, if Jesus is 80% owned and I'm captaining him and he's getting me 13 points, and if someone else is going for a considerably low ownership player and he gets them 10 points, I'm still gaining more captaincy points on Jesus. So if you fancy Jesus to get those 2 goals, I think is definitely worth a shout. I am not that very confident. I think Fulham like to sort of play a bit of on the front foot. We sort of saw that against Liverpool as well. I think in the first game week, Salah was reasonably lucky to come out with 2 returns. So yeah, I'm happy with Jesus being there. Very highly owned. If he gets points, great. If he doesn't do well, then everyone falls together. So yeah, I'm pretty relaxed that way. But these three sort of really stand out to me. Any attacker from Spurs, City, or Liverpool.
Would you?
Which we're talking about. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So
sure, man.
if you have a KDB and a Haaland, let's say, would you
Hmm.
captain a KDB over a Haaland just because of the
Yeah,
minutes?
I think the fact that and I watch all City games. I sort of watch highlights 2 or 3 times. I'm into Guardiola's pressers all the time. I think this is trend that we saw. Maybe it's a very small sample size, so we need to see how it translates in the future. But I think that is the sort of a fixture where Haaland will be surrounded by a lot of defenders and KDB could benefit. But again, it's a
Yeah.
funny game, right? Haaland is on penalties. What if there are two penalties and Haaland takes them? But if you ask me to pick one of them right now for captaincy, I think I probably fancy KDB ahead of Haaland right now.
Hmm.
I still fancy Haaland. I think if the fact that KDB is slightly deeper, it it I'm not very confident of captaining him. Yes, he's standout, he's great, that's all that. But I think Gundogan is playing more in a forward role, and Kevin and Haaland is the central man. If there's anything that they want to try, I think they will also approach the game in terms of putting in more crosses like Liverpool did. I think, and Haaland will be the central man and the target man for
Hmm.
that. And I think if I had to choose, Haaland would be the guy
Definitely, yeah.
between
He's
the two.
he's
Yeah,
he's definitely the safer option, no doubt
Haaland
about
for
that.
me
And
as well.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, the fact that he's
yeah,
on penalties is I think is a massive factor for sure. And yeah, we were discussing effective ownership, which brings us to a very last segment, and there's something called the multiverse of differentials. And just to give context to our viewers, what we're going to do is each pod member every week is going to be like a mini multiverse contest between all of us, where we pick a differential each, and we see how it goes. If we nail that differential, if that differential that we pick gets an attacking return or a clean sheet, we get 5 points on our own mini competition sort of a thing. If that the differential pick blanks, then obviously we get nothing. And the definition of differential obviously could be vague, but we are looking at players under 10% ownership. So yeah, that's what we're
yeah.
going to do each week. And this is something that could help you make your decision as well if you're watching this, and if you like one of our differentials. We're putting thoughts into it before we pick, make these picks. So yeah, let's start with this. I will start with Anshuman. Tell us which is your differential pick for this week, game week
Eh,
4.
I mean, if I had to go really differential, I think it's a genuine pick, not just this week and going ahead as well. I think Danny Welbeck would be my differential this week. I think Leeds are prone to in terms of getting conceding chances, and Brighton will try to score goals past them.
Yeah, that's a great shout. Manan, what about you?
It might sound a bit knee jerky, but I'll go for Gundogan. He's what 3.5% owned, and he was amazing in the last game against Newcastle. For a fact, he had the most penalty area touches
Penalty
from.
touches, yes.
Yeah, he had 10 penalty area touches as compared to Haaland's 6. I mean, he's getting more into the box. We have seen Gundogan in the past having those freakish runs of points where he goes and scores points every game week, and that's what I'm hoping for him. The fixtures are also good for the next 3 game weeks at least, and I clearly fancy him scoring in against Crystal Palace.
Yeah, that's a great shout. For those who are watching this on YouTube, you can see two really nice gentlemen, Mihir and Rakshit, who will also be a part of this in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now it's three of us, and yeah, I'm the only one left who has to make a pick. My pick, it almost sounds like I'm cheating, right? I looked at Robertson's ownership, and his ownership is less than 10%. It's 8.8% ownership.
Oh.
Uh, I don't see how this fails. I think he either gets a clean sheet or he gets an attacking return. He's just too good to not get something out of it. So yeah, it almost feels like cheating, but I'm going for it a bit shamelessly.
Yeah.
Robertson is my multiverse differential pick for the week.
That's fine. I think Robertson's ownership fell this week. It wasn't that low
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah.
Okay, here are our differentials for this week. I think Z has gone with Robertson. I've picked Danny Welbeck. Manan with a shameless pick of Gundogan. I think it's more shameless in terms of Manan going Gundogan. And Mihir and Rakshit will add in their differentials into the list. Yeah, we consider that. Unfortunately, they're not with us in this
Too
pod.
yeah, too bad they're not
Yeah,
here. Yeah, but
yeah,
they
they
will be
will be
with us.
back next week. Yeah, they are going to get back with us next week. Okay, so we quickly dive into our teams. First, we have Manan's team up. Manan, can you read out your team for the people who are going to listen us and quickly take through your plans? What
Sure,
are your
sure.
plans for Game Week 4?
Sure. So I have Danny Ward in. I have Ward in as a goalkeeper. I have Trent, James, Walker, and Zinchenko as my defense. I have Gundogan, Salah, Martinelli in my midfield, and I have Tony, Jesus, and Haaland as my forward line. I have Iverson, Bailey, Andreas Pereira, and Nico Williams on my bench. So I've already made my So I had two free transfers, and I already made my transfers, as you can see. So I have brought in, so I've shipped out KDB and the 4.5 Archer, and brought in Gundogan and Tony. I still have I'm very big on, as you can, as if you have heard the whole pod, I'm big on Tony and Gundogan. So those are my two transfers in. I have 1.9 million in the bank, and I am looking to take a hit and either ship out Iverson for a Sanchez, because I don't think the 4.0 rotation was a good idea. And or either I'm looking to upgrade a Nico Williams to a Perisic.
Big
Yeah,
boy.
and but what that transfer does is I'll have to bench a Walker, right? And it feels wrong to take a hit. I know Perisic can easily repay that hit, but it feels wrong to take a hit and bench Walker. So here I am. I'm currently captaining Haaland, and my vice captain is on Salah. But let's see. I mean, it's Tuesday, and a lot of things can change.
A lot can change. Obviously, they play
Yeah,
Barcelona
yeah,
tonight, so that can change.
yeah.
I'll walk you through my team. So yeah, I have Ramsdale in goal. I have Trent, Walker, Cancelo, and James in my defense. Kulusevski, Rodrigo, Martinelli, Salah, Jesus, and Haaland up top. In my bench, I have Andreas, Neco Williams, and Greenwood. So my planned transfer is probably Haaland to a Kane. I'm pretty convinced with that, unless I think otherwise, and there's certain news or something. It depends on the UCL draw. So I feel that appropriately Haaland is getting benched for the Nottingham Forest game. I'll sell him because I think that's the only game where I hardcore want a City attacker to play full 90 minutes and captain him. And why I'm selling Haaland to Kane is basically because in the next game I can sell Kulusevski to a City midfielder, which is an easy route to get back to the City attack. So that is
Yep.
my transfer plan, and the captaincy at the moment is on Haaland because it was Haaland next last week, and it's probably going to shift to a Salah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
And
Z,
yeah,
you can take us through your team.
and the last one, as you can see, the team that you're looking at right now is got Shaka in there, Granit Shaka in there as a third Arsenal player. So I'm definitely not sticking with him. What I've done is I've activated my wild card, and I've just filled it with all the players who are going up in price. So that is a plan right now. I'm just trying to catch the price rises. This will be followed by a lot of brainstorming this week. I pressed the wildcard button because I know it's fairly early, but my initial team was a team that had I made it to sort of cover each price points, and uh, to the extent that I also had a 10 million midfielder spot. So I initially tried to punt on Bruno because United had a couple of decent fixtures, and I thought, okay, Ronaldo might not play. Bruno could play that advanced role, and he could be on penalties. The flashback from a couple of seasons back, but that did not happen. I took a punt on Sterling, but Chelsea look a bit flat. I was encouraged by what I saw versus Spurs, but yeah, I think Leeds totally outplayed them altogether. So I've got plenty of tinkering to do at this point. Not fixed on my team yet, but I'm definitely very keen on Kane. Like we've already discussed, but I also don't want to get rid of Haaland. So is that question of which two premiums I end up picking eventually? But I'm fairly confident that I might end up with Kane and Haaland. So I'm trying to figure out a way. Maybe go premium or maybe get rid of the premium midfielders. It's a bit up in the air, but when the deadline comes and the teams are locked, I'm sure that I will have Kane captain
Okay.
for game four.
So certain players you think you'll be like definitely having in your wildcard team.
Yes, I'm definitely having Perisic.
Okay.
Sure, I'm gonna have Haaland and Kane as well. The keeper situation was also, a big problem. I don't know how I got sort of sucked into it. Going with the 2 into 4 million Leicester keepers. Leicester are rubbish. I at least expected maybe I'll get one jammy clean sheet and get
Yeah.
6, 7, 8 points in 3 game weeks. This guy's getting zero and 1 point every game week. It's a disaster. So yeah, I want to fix that because in isolation it sounds like okay, just don't do a keeper transfer. But if you add up and you look at other keepers, they're racking up the points. So you don't want to be left too far behind. So yeah, I had few fires to fix. So I've pressed that wildcard button. I'm reasonably happy, and I'm going to give it a lot of thought. But I'm keen on having Sanchez as my keeper, and Kane and Haaland definitely will keep their place along with Jesus. He's an obvious pick. He's going
Okay,
nowhere.
so there are 4 players or 5 players nailed in your wildcard draft at the
Definitely,
moment.
definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so that probably brings us brings us to the end of this pod. And any last thought, guys? Any last advice, tips, saying anything before we end this?
No, I think I wish we've covered most of the points. I wish green arrows to all of you. I think we really need it after the disaster of game week 3. Yeah, green arrows, big captaincy halls, and I hope all the three or four big team. The top four kind of go crazy and
Yeah.
points raining here and there. What about you, Manan? Any last words?
I think it was really fun recording this with you guys, and as a first episode and this project, we have been preparing for quite a while. So if you really love this episode and if you have been if you have been with us during the whole video, then please like and subscribe. Also, yeah, just wish green arrows for everyone, and yeah. What about you, Anshuman?
Yeah, just like, share, and subscribe to the channel.
Yeah,
And we're gonna do this every week, so make sure you hit the bell icon as well and subscribe or follow the social accounts of FPL Variance. And we are also going to take up questions on these accounts, so make sure you give us a follow, and make sure even on YouTube we are going to ask a lot of community questions, so hit the bell icon
definitely.
there as well.
Yeah, you could watching this, you could drop your questions in the comments. Any of us
Yeah.
are very happy to get back to you. You could reach out on our individual social media handles as well.
Yes.
Uh, we are always available, happy to answer any of your questions. And yeah, most importantly, we are just getting started. So stay with us. We'll be back next game week with another podcast. For now, have a good game week. See you later. Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers, cheers, guys.